What's going on, Giants fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I want to give my initial reaction to the Giants 53-man roster. Apologies getting this up a little bit later. Escaped the hurricane last night in Florida, back from vacation, ready to go. Also wanted to wait till a little bit more information came out about some guys, but very excited to break this down with you folks. Before we get into that, make sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms if you like what you watch on Big Blue Avenue. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue. We appreciate everybody's support, comments, and questions as always. Now, the Giants, as expected, only kept two quarterbacks on their 53-man roster, that being Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. Much expected, Tommy DeVito has signed on the practice squad at the time of this video, had an impressive preseason despite one pick six, but he really balled out and really fought hard. There was a portion of the fan base that wanted DeVito on over Tyrod Taylor, but it made zero sense to cut Taylor due to the fact that he would account for $5.5 million against the cap this year. It would just accumulate up to dead money, and Taylor was quite frankly going up against a very bad offensive line in front of him this preseason, a lot of second teamers. So can't really fault Tyrod Taylor too much for that. But yeah, two quarterbacks as usual for Big Blue. Next up, four running backs kept on the 53-man roster. Some people might be surprised by the fourth being Gary Brightwell. Saquon, Matt Breida, and Eric Gray are the obvious ones. The Giants were hopeful that Jashaun Corbin would land on the practice squad despite an impressive preseason, but he has since signed to the Carolina Panthers practice squad. So Jashaun Corbin is gone. Wish him the best, obviously. Brightwell kept for primary special teams purposes. Thomas McGaughey's special teams unit really struggled in the preseason. They had their moments against the Jets, but it just wasn't great. They need guys that can cover on punts and kickoffs. They need guys that can return kicks as well. Eric Gray got some time returning kicks. We know Matt Breida plays the primary blocker on punts sometimes on special teams. So those three running backs will all get their fair share. Brightwell should not see the field at running back this season unless the game is in a blowout or the Giants have a playoff spot clinched and we're in Week 18 resting starters. But yeah, so four backs, none on the practice squad at this time. So Brightwell is back. Next up, wide receiver. So the Giants only kept six on the initial 53-man roster, that being Parris, Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius, Slayton, Jalin Hyatt, Sterling Shepard, and Wan'Dale Robinson, who has been activated from PUP. He is hopeful to be good to go come Week 1. Player who tore his ACL last November in his rookie campaign, only appeared in 2 games, was having an impressive game too when he tore his ACL. So Campbell, Hodgins, Slayton, and Hyatt were the four locks. Sterling Shepard makes it. Wan'Dale ready to go. Cole Beasley likely would have made the initial roster if Wan'Dale could not be activated off PUP, but Cole Beasley is back on the Giants practice squad. So happy to see that. Some unfortunate news for Giants fans. David Sills, not only did he get cut, but he is gone, like gone. He signed to the Denver Broncos practice squad. Sills with the Giants from 2019 to 2023, had 6 catches for 81 yards and a score in the final preseason game against the Jets. Notorious had his locker next to Daniel Jones, followed him everywhere in the offseason. Was one of the longest tenured Giants, and he will be missed for sure, along with the David Sills army. But it's possible. People are saying they haven't seen the last of him. He may become a coach one day. We'll see. But I'm happy he's still playing in the NFL. He deserves to be on a team. Also, Giants add another wide receiver, which we'll get to a little bit later when we go over the practice squad, just going over cuts and players who make the roster for now. So 6 on the initial. Beasley's back on the practice squad is 7. Tight ends, they only kept 3 initially: Darren Waller, Daniel Bellinger, and Lawrence Kedron. Tommy Sweeney was placed on the non-football injury list. Chris Myrick was placed on season-ending injured reserve with a broken hand. Now, what I see on this roster is Lawrence Cager, a very poor man's version of Darren Waller. Bellinger, more of the blocking tight end, who can also make some nice catches as well. His hands are made out of glue. He never drops passes. And we know he is also a receiving threat. So he's good at both. Waller is an average blocker, more notorious for his receiving skills. Lawrence Cager, not a good blocker. So I'm hoping the Giants do eventually get some good blocking tight ends on their practice squad, maybe one, if not two. Actually, there has since been two signed in Tyree Jackson from the Eagles, and then, of course, Ryan Jones, who was on the 90-man roster, the undrafted free agent out of East Carolina. But, yeah, I'll get to Tyree Jackson a little bit more when we get to the practice squad. But, yeah, 3 tight ends were kept. The Giants kept 9 offensive linemen. This was interesting. With the 9 that they kept, I was not shocked that they kept that number, which I had originally predicted, but I did not predict Matt Peart would make the 53-man roster. That's probably a minority opinion, by the way. A lot of people had him as a lock due to being really the only true swing tackle on the roster to back up Thomas and Neal, but he was atrocious in the preseason. I was hoping the Giants would cut him and claim a tackle off of waivers, because I do think Azeez and McKeithen have tackle flexibility in them. But let's take a look at the 5 obvious ones: Thomas, Breida, Schmitz, Glowinski, Neal, and then Azeez, Peart. Shane Lemieux made the roster. I had him making it. But after Peart made it, I thought Phillips would make it over Lemieux. Tyree Phillips might have been a surprise cut there for the offensive line, a guy who definitely had some good time last season, making a couple spot starts when Neal was hurt. So 9 offensive linemen, and it'll probably be Breida and Glow starting at each of the guard spots, and I'm fine with that. Now, moving on to the defense, folks, the Giants kept 6 interior defensive linemen. Last year, they only kept 5, and I did anticipate that DJ Davidson would stick around. I just did not think he would make the 53-man roster. Beat reporter Lance Meadow brought up a good point that DJ Davidson would likely clear waivers because there's a lack of film on this guy, right? So I was a little surprised he made the initial 53-man roster, but Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll did not want to expose him. Obvious 4 here: Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, Rakeem, Nunez-Roches, A'Shawn Robinson, who's coming back from an injury, which could be why they kept 6. Nacho, a little banged up in the preseason, along with Robinson as well. Jordan Riley really proved himself in the preseason to be that 5th defensive lineman on the inside. And then DJ Davidson is number 6, who doesn't have that much NFL experience, by the way. So keeping 6 might be a lot, but, Davidson's still recovering from an injury, ACL. Robinson as well, and Nacho a little banged up in the preseason. So this is not an awful position to bulk up on. This is the Philadelphia Eagles recipe. They like to load up on interior defensive linemen, and we all know the Giants really struggled to stop the run last year, especially when backs got past Dexter Lawrence and the first level. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. The edge rusher room is an interesting one. There are 4, maybe not the 4 we expected, though. The Giants made a cut-down day trade with the Buffalo Bills for a player they're very familiar with, a player that Joe Schoen helped drafted in 2021 in Boogie Basham. The Bills send Boogie Basham to the Giants. He was a 2021 second-round pick. The teams exchanged 2025 late-round draft picks. So the Bills send their 7th-round pick in 2025 to the Giants, and the Giants send their 6th-round pick to the Bills. Joe Schoen didn't want to mess around with any more 2024 draft picks after trading one away for Isaiah Simmons. I believe that was a 7th-round pick. And then Schoen, I'm sure, will find a way to get the 6th round back for 2025 at some point. But I wouldn't say this is a fleece. I say the Bills were really deep in the edge rusher room with guys like Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, A.J. Epineza, etc. So, again, I think between Epineza and Boogie Basham, one was expendable. What the Giants are getting in Basham? Well, this is a guy who is 25 years old, 6'3", 274 pounds, known as an elite pass rusher at Wake Forest. He's been everything but that since entering the NFL. Just 4.5 sacks and 29 pressures, 37 tackles in 2 seasons. A lot of people have mentioned this, and after watching his film, I do agree. He seems like a younger version of Jihad Ward when you analyze his build. 2 years left on his rookie deal. He'll count for $1.09 million this year, $1.352 next year. There's no guaranteed money in either year. So he'll join Jihad Ward, Kayvon Thibodeaux, and Azeez Ojulari. O'Shane Zimenez and Tamon Fox were cut. They have since rejoined the practice squad. So O'Shane still finds a way to stick around in year number 5, despite being unable to set an edge 5 years in the NFL, former third-round draft pick. So 4 edge rushers kept on the 53, 6 inside linebackers kept by the Giants. Well, technically 5, if you think about it, on the 53. Bobby Okereke, Micah McFadden, 2 obvious ones. Isaiah Simmons, who they acquired via trade, who you can pretty much put anywhere on the defense. He'll play that Landon Collins, Tony Jefferson role from last season. And then Carter Coughlin really imprinted himself on the 53-man once again. This guy doesn't just impress on special teams. He impressed on defense once again in the preseason as well. I thought he did a fine job, several tackles for loss, and he's playing out the final year of his rookie deal. Cam Brown also kept primarily for special teams. Not really a guy who will see the field on defense, as where you can insert Coughlin at linebacker on defense. You can't really say the same for Cam Brown. Those two have been buddies since joining the team back in 2020. The surprise cut here is Darrian Beavers, although he's since been brought back to the practice squad. Beavers tore his ACL last year. He's never played a regular season game for the Giants, so it was interesting that Joe Shane exposed him to waivers, but he really wasn't moving around well in the preseason in the games that he played. He never really was a threat to take the starting job from Micah McFadden, and I've tried to say this all summer, and a lot of people had Beavers ahead of McFadden. I mean, first off, Beavers tore his ACL. I get it. He's an exciting player from the Bearcats in Cincinnati. McFadden had a year of experience in the system. He's a perfect fit for Wink's defense, and Beavers is going to have to earn his way back on the Giants practice squad. So very excited to have a little bit more depth, much more depth, I should say, at the linebacker room last season, because the top 2 linebackers last year were Jalen Smith, and I can't even remember the other one. I think it was Tay Crowder for a while until he got cut. So interesting stuff there. Corner. Giants keep 5 on the initial 53. Adoree Jackson, Deontay Banks, Trey Hawkins. So Jackson will start in the slot. This year, the 2 rookies will start on the boundary. Cor'Dale Flott and Darnay Holmes, who took a pay cut to remain with Big Blue. Darnay Holmes was originally listed as a cut player for me. I was wrong. They brought him back. They pulled the Darius Slayton from last year. They gave him a pay cut, bet on himself, final year of his rookie deal. Let's see what Darnay could do. He's more of a coverage corner. He's not a press man corner. He's not a fit for this defense, really. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets replaced at some point. The Giants also moved Aaron Robinson to the PUP list. I have a feeling Robinson would have been corner number 5 if he was healthy, but he goes from active PUP to reserve PUP. He'll miss at least the first 4 games of the season. Again, this is a poor guy who played just 2 games last year, had his appendix removed, and then tore his ACL. The appendix is still potentially a career-threatening injury, but Robinson is sticking around. He's duking it out, entering the 3rd year of his rookie contract. Now, safeties. The Giants keep 6. I was a little surprised Bobby McCain made the 53-man roster, but let's talk about that. Pinnock, the 2 starters, Dane Belton, good reserve, Nick McLeod, core special teams player who dealt with injury in the preseason. Not so sure if he'll get moved to short-term IR yet or not. He's a pure gunner. Bobby McCain, still in concussion protocol. Javarius Owens also nursing a hamstring injury similar to McLeod. So possibly one or both of those guys go to short-term IR. I think more likely Owens than McLeod, but McLeod really hasn't played at all this preseason, so we really don't know what to expect in this safety room. If the Giants do sign anybody to the 53-man roster, maybe one of these guys will get bumped to IR. I'm not so sure, but those are the 6 safeties. Alex Cook was cut, brought back to the practice squad. Special teams, Graham Gano, Jamie Gillen, Casey Kreider. Those are the 3 shoo-ins. They've been on the team for a couple of years now. So, surprise cuts for me, Tyree Phillips, Darrian Beavers. Those are the 2 that caught me off guard a little bit. I'm not surprised that the team cut Cole Beasley because I knew he would stick around regardless. Yeah, so those are the 2 surprise cuts to me, really. I'm not shocked David Sills was released, even though I had him making it. I thought he would have played maybe the Bryce Ford Wheaton role, but I was wrong there. So, again, of course, with trades, you can't really tell. So if you do the math, I mean, it's really 48, but, adding depth, Joe Shane, Trader Joe is what they're calling him, adding Isaiah Simmons and Boogie Basham, really helping this defense out. Brian Daboll announced in Monday's press conference there are 10 captains on the football team this year. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Darren Waller, and Andrew Thomas on offense. Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, Bobby Okereke, Adoree Jackson, Xavier McKinney on defense. Adoree is a first-time captain, by the way. I believe Bobby Okereke is as well, since he was on the Colts and wasn't his first 4 years. And then Graham Gano on special teams. Graham Gano, limitless range, booted 55+ yard field goals in the preseason. He's a continued dominant force. All right, so those are the 10 captains. At the time of this video, the Giants have had 14 players signed to their practice squad, and let's break it down. This is in addition to the 53-man roster. The Giants made 0 waiver claims and had 0 of their cut players claimed by other teams. However, a couple have been signed since. Those include David Sills to the Denver Broncos, as I mentioned earlier, Deshaun Corbin to the Carolina Panthers, and then Sean Harlow has been signed by the Dallas Cowboys to their practice squad. So, 14 players to start off. Tommy DeVito signed to the practice squad. Impressive preseason. Local kid, Don Bosco, high school legend. Cole Beasley brought back, very familiar with Brian Daboll's system in Buffalo. Now he's here in New York. Cole Beasley was impressive in the first preseason game. Very excited to have him on this practice squad. I expect him to be promoted to the 53-man roster for week 1. Dennis Houston signed after Dallas released him. And Dennis Houston is a guy who's been in the league for a little bit now. Interested to see how he fits on this team. Houston, he is 6 foot 1 inches tall, 24 years old, 2020 undrafted free agent out of Western Illinois. He played 2 games last year, had 2 catches. He just has 4 career catches. So this is a guy who is probably a fringe practice squad player. I don't expect him to be promoted to the 53-man anytime soon unless there is injury. Next up on the practice squad, Ryan Jones, undrafted free agent tight end out of Eastern Carolina, due to Tommy Sweeney being on the non-football injury list and Chris Myrick with the hand issue out for the year. Makes sense to bring Ryan Jones back. The Giants also got Tyree Jackson from the Philadelphia Eagles, as I mentioned earlier. Jackson, 6'7", converted quarterback when he attended the University of Buffalo. 2019 undrafted free agent, going from the Bulls to the Bills. So Joe Shane and Brian Daboll both partially responsible for signing Tyree Jackson back in 2019. Played 2020 in the XFL, was signed by the Eagles in 2021, and that's where the transition to tight end began. Had 3 catches for 22 yards and 1 touchdown in 14 appearances for the Philadelphia Eagles. So he might be one of the more notable players on the Giants practice squad. The only offensive lineman at this time is Tyree Phillips. He was brought back. Great to see. Made a couple starts last season. Ryder Anderson has been brought back, the undrafted free agent out of Indiana from last season. O'Shane Ximines continues to stick around. Tamon Fox, the only UDFA to make the initial 53-man in 2022. He pretty much stayed on the whole year. Giants, again, they're a much deeper team this year. So guys who played on the 53-man last year and are being brought back might be on the practice squad this year. So far, we've seen that with Tyree Phillips, with Ryder Anderson, with O'Shane Ximenez, with Tomon Fox. All four of those guys were on the 53-man roster at one point last season. They're on the practice squad this year. Darrian Beavers brought back to the practice squad. Great to see that. Deontay Johnson as well, the undrafted free agent out of Toledo. So that's two linebackers. Amani Oruwariye brought back. Corner. Had 6 picks in 2021. He's fallen off since. He sticks around for now. Jamon Green, corner, undrafted free agent, got toasted in the preseason. Safety Alex Cook, another UDFA out of Washington, has been brought back to the practice squad as well. So that puts the Giants at 14. There's 2 spots left. They need 16 guys on their practice squad to complete it. According to Giants.com, the 2 players, the one from Dallas and the one from Philly, have not been made official by the Giants website yet. So they have 12 official. I'm just looking at this now on my phone. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for Big Blue in the coming days. But this was my initial 53-man roster projection. Appreciate everybody tuning in and staying alert for me evaluating the practice squad as well. Folks, want to quickly shout out our lovely sponsor, BetUS. You can sign up with our promo code below at Join125. Get a 125% sign-up bonus where you can bet on the go anywhere, anytime. That's BetUS, America's #1 favorite sports book, where the game begins. If you want to bet on the Giants and other football teams this season, that is the place to go. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Check us out on all of our social media. Like this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, folks. A lot of content coming your way. Ring the bell for notifications. Appreciate all of your love and support. Without further ado, let's go Big Blue.